The show where anything goes. Motivation, mindset, recovery, philosophy, and life. We become who we are through what we experience. We all have a story, and this is My Backstory with Josh Boyer.
So I am here with Carolina Rocha, also known as Architect Goddess on Instagram, and I'm super excited about this episode. Like I explained to her before the podcast, I had been wanting to shift directions of the podcast. I wanted to be more in alignment with making the world a better place, realizing our own human potential, and making, just leaving the world better, being a good human, and sharing amazing stories. And so I saw you on Instagram, and I know that you were connected with Troy and with Alexander, and I went to an event at the Mystic Manor in Venice, and I was like, wow. And I had been closed off to kind of the LA circuit, if you will, because all of the guests that I've had on the show have been out of state. So I was traveling everywhere, and I was like, man, I'm totally missing so much gold here in LA. So once I made that connection with Troy and then did a podcast with him and then Alexander, now you, I'm like, yes, it's it feels like a good momentum shift, and so I love it. So I want you to share your story with the guests, what your upbringing was like, what got you to LA, where you're from, what things you're into, what your mission is, what you want your legacy to be, all the things. And as we go, I'll be asking you questions, obviously. So yeah, go ahead and take it away. Yeah,
Thank you so much, Josh. I'm super excited because I'm all about getting it real and being authentic and 100% myself.
Yep.
And this is why Troy, Alex, Aishel, Raw, right? They're all my friends because we're all 100% ourselves.
Yeah.
And this is something that is kind of missing in the world today.
Big time.
As years goes by. So a little bit about my story. I was born and raised in Argentina, in Cordoba. It's in the mountains. And my parents are Sicilian. So I was raised with my grandparents and my parents. Everybody always, spoke Italian to me. And it was very beautiful because I walked barefoot my whole life because I lived next to the river.
Yeah.
So I would drink water off the river and play outside until 10 at night, right? Because it was safe. There's wild horses everywhere. Yeah. And at the age of 14, my parents said, we're going to move to the United States. And I cried for months. And when I moved, we moved to Florida.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know how to speak English at all. So
did you speak Spanish and Italian or just Italian?
Spanish and Italian.
Okay.
But when I moved to the United States, I had no idea. I just knew how to say my name is and the basics. Yeah. And I joined high school. I went straight into 9th grade.
Oh, that's rough.
So it was pretty difficult for me to communicate, and especially because I was a teenager and I missed my friends and my grandmother and all of my family. So it took a while to get adapted. And I was a really good tennis player. Yeah. And the tennis team for the high school wanted me to be on the tennis team as the leader, the captain of the team. And they said, oh, you can't be on these ESOL classes, classes for people that didn't speak English. You have to be in regular classes with the Americans. So you could be in the tennis team. Yeah. So they literally took me out of ESOL classes and they put me with all Americans in 9th grade.
Wow.
So it was awesome because it forced me to expand. It forced me to carry my dictionary everywhere and, translate and learn the language.
Were they brutal toward you? I mean, the reason I said, I was saying, wow, that's crazy because I know, it may be different for women, but I know, for men, I mean, I saw people coming from out of the country into our school that didn't speak good English and whatever, and they were kind of not outsiders, but it's you could tell that there was a disconnect there, and I felt for those people, because man, that, how brutal is that to come into, I know for me, I moved from Texas back to California where I was initially from, and even that was a huge transition because it was whoa, I don't know any of these people, I didn't grow up with them, and I'm coming in a completely different environment in 8th grade, and it was tough, it was challenging.
Yeah, no, it was definitely hard, and I did feel all the girls never spoke to me. They called me the Hispanic girl because I was always the only Hispanic in the whole class because ESO was separated, right? All ESO students did classes together. Yep. So I was the Hispanic girl, and it was tough, but once they saw me playing in the tennis court, no.
That's crazy how sports do that. There is no like, and I shared this with other people, like there may have been like things going on outside, like in the school or whatever, but the minute you got on the football field, the minute you got on the tennis court, the minute you got onto the soccer pitch, whatever it was, there seems to be no color lines there. Like nobody cares like what you speak or how you speak it or whatever. It's like we're all here to win. That's it, you know?
Exactly. And it kind of made me gain like a little bit more respect by everyone because they knew I was the good girl in the team. But yeah, I played tennis for many years, and then I was part of the ATP. I always been an athlete, and people ask me, why are you so fit? And I was like, I've been doing it since I was like 6. And of high school, I got into college, and I was confused about my major, and I was like first student to go into college from my family here in the United States. My parents went to school in Argentina, but they never practiced, and my mom got pregnant. She was 22. So I was literally the official first person to get a full bachelor's degree.
Super cool.
And I studied business, finance, and then I wasn't really happy because I practiced, and I was like, geez, I can't be in an office working with numbers all day. I really like to be an artist, and I always wanted to be an architect. So I went back into school. I applied to UF, University of Florida. I got accepted into UF. And then I also applied to SCIARC. It's the Southern California Institute of Architecture, and at the time, and still one of the top 5 in the world. It's Columbia, Harvard, MIT, and then there was SCIARC. I think SCIARC was 2 at the time. And I applied to SCIARC, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to send my portfolio. I took 2 years to build my portfolio, build models, drawings, and everything. And I applied to SCIARC. And I remember I was visiting Argentina with my grandparents, and I got my acceptance letter from SCIARC, and I was like, oh my God, I got into the top school, because it's a creative school. It's not about toilet is 30 inches on center from the wall. This is about how can we create the best experience in a space. And that was where my heart was going. So I really wanted to go to SCIARC. So when I got the acceptance letter, I was really excited. I told my grandparents, oh my God, I got accepted into the school, but too bad, I can't afford it. It's like $50,000 a month, a semester. And so I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to go to University of Florida. And when I landed on the airplane, I got an email that says, you've been granted a full scholarship to SCIARC.
Oh, wow.
So
That's awesome.
I was like jumping. I was like, I am going to SCIARC. I just got a full ride to this university. And I told my parents, I'm going to SCIARC. My parents didn't even know, because I always been very independent, just doing my own things. I told them, I applied to this school in Los Angeles, and I got accepted, and I'm going. And then they had a requirement where I had to take a design course to learn how to use the computer, because everything that I've done was by hand. I used to draft by hand, all intricate drawings, all by hand. And this computer was very technical. We used a lot of parametrics and scripting, processing, all buildings are generated with, software. And I was like, oh my God, I have no idea how to even use Photoshop. So one of the requirements was for me to take the summer intensive of design course, so I could learn how to use the computer and then join the fall semester with the rest of the students. And that course was $5,000. I was like, where in the world am I going to get $5,000? They gave me a full scholarship. This should include the design course. And they said, oh no, that's additional. You have to pay that out of your pocket. At the time, I had a little old car that this man hit me driving off a driveway. So they gave the car a total loss. And my parents said, we don't have anything to give you to go to college, but you can take the $1,000 for the total loss of the car. And I was like, okay, I have $1,000 and I can move to LA and pay rent and food and the $5,000 for the course that I don't even know how that's going to happen. So I bought a ticket, a one-way ticket, and I bought a luggage and other things. So I had I think $700 left. And my mom was like, just go to LA, go into school, walk in as soon as you get there, and talk to the principal of the school and tell them that you got a full scholarship, and that if they really want you, they have to waive the course of the $5,000, and explain the whole thing. So that's what I did. I didn't have a place to stay. I knew a friend of a friend, this amazing Korean guy, and he let me crash in his living room. for 3 months, actually, because I went to SciArc and I walked into the architecture school and I explained my story. And I said, look, I come from an immigrant family. I just came from my country. I only have $600 for, food and printing and living and rent and everything. Yeah. And I have a full scholarship because I'm an outstanding architect and designer. So the principal said, that's fine. You can take the course. Don't worry about it. And they waived the price of the $5,000. And then my friend let me crash in his living room for 3 months. I remember we put curtains, so I would have like a little private corner, and I slept in the floor for 3 months because I got an extra scholarship, so they wouldn't release it until the adding drop date of the semester, which was like 2 weeks after the class started. Yep. So I had to wait a couple months before getting some income. But that's how I kind of started my journey in LA.
It's so awesome. I love stories like that because it's like, I think people take for granted like how much good things that we have, you know what I mean? Where it's like, and you came over here with little to no money, $600, like where does that get you in LA? Not very far, you know what I mean? Like, and that's all you have. It's like no job, no nothing. It's like, yeah, I'm just depending on this, that this is going to go through, and that's that,
Yeah.
It was a lot of faith. It took a lot of faith, a lot of courage for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
How hard were those classes when you started? Was it all in English? And were you at this point, were you like good to go? Like you understood everything and it was all good?
No, I had many breakdowns,
right.
Especially even though I took the course.
Yeah.
All these students have been doing it because when I got into architectural school, they skipped 3 years. They put me 3 years ahead because I was really advanced. Yeah. So I only had 2 more years. This was a master's of architecture. It was all included, an advanced program. So they placed me on the 3rd year.
Oh, wow.
So I was already with the advanced students that already knew how to use the programs, and they would create animations on the first semester.
AutoCAD.
Like, I'm just not even AutoCAD. That's like years ago. Now we use like Maya and Rhino and Grasshopper for parametrics. Right. We use Revit, ArchiCAD, really advanced software. I wish it was ArchiCAD right. or AutoCAD. But my first week, we're like, oh, we have to study all these flowers and all these trees, and we have to create some sort of drawings that are biodynamic of how the plants respond to the sunlight and the sun and the wind, and come up with architectural ideas based on like plants. And I had to represent all of that graphically. Wow. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to draw all of these things and do all of this in the computer? But I did it. I remember I was at the wood shop. The school had an amazing wood shop, and I was sitting there. I had a little job at the shop for work study. I worked 10 hours a week to get some extra money, and I was just crying. I was like, I have a presentation tomorrow, and I don't know how to do it. I need help. And somehow it happened. The next day I had my drawings. When you need help, you just have to ask, and there's always going to be people.
Totally. And I think that's where people like, a lot of times people fail is by not asking for help. It's not like there's so much pride and you're like, I don't want to ask for, assistance on things. Even when I started the podcast, like I had an issue asking my guests, will you please share this? Like I'm flying to you. I'm like I'm renting a car, I'm renting the hotel. And I didn't even have the courage to be like, hey, listen, like I came out to you, like, will you please just do me one favor? I'm not asking for any money. I'm not asking for anything. Will you please just share this? And I had a hard time with that. Like, I felt like, who am I? You know what I mean? Like, hopefully they'll just do it. You know what I mean? And now I'm very direct and like, I ask for what I need, So it's like, I want the podcast to be a big thing. So if I want it to be a big thing, it needs to spread out into different networks, not just mine.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do now. Is like I ask people like, please share it. Please.
Yeah. Make bold requests.
Right. For sure.
Let's just be a bold person.
What was your intention? Like when you went to architect school, like what did you want to do? Obviously to be an architect, but like, did you see the world kind of like the same way that you see it now? Were things different? Did you see yourself working for this big corporation, like, or working for yourself? Like, what was your aspiration?
I wanted to have my own practice, and I wanted to teach design courses to beginners on how to start developing their brain to think as designers, as an artist, and not as architects per se. Right. Because like what I noticed is that all spaces are so defined. They're like cookie cutters. Yeah. Right, because there's so many regulations by the city and city planning, and like you can only build this high, the facade can only have this many glass. they're so restricted that architects don't have a space to create a creative design.
Especially in California, right? Because you have seismic zone and you have all these things that you have to do that
even
are
the
different.
colors of the building have to be a certain color because the city has those regulations.
Yep.
So I wanted to challenge that, and I just wanted to, when I joined architecture school, I just wanted to create amazing big things and then see them before my eyes.
That's awesome.
That's all I wanted. I just wanted to design a space or a building and then just come outside and just see it all built. And that was my passion. I think I wasn't really thinking about the professional practice yet. Then when I graduated, I worked for many Ivy League architects where they're Pritzker winners, where I would work 120 hours a week and barely sleep and almost not get paid. Because when you work for this amazing Pritzker winner architects, there's so much competition, so many interns and people that want to work for free just to get the experience and have that in their resume. So I was one of those. I was already applied to Harvard. I got into the GSD, Graduate School of Design, and I was like, I'm just going to go to Harvard and then I'm going to work for the Pritzker winner architects. And something inside of me said, slow down, practice a little bit. Practice architecture. Like the practical architecture is extremely different from the educational. So I got a really good job, which I worked for this architect in Santa Monica for about 5 years. And I was the design leader of the studio. He completely trusted me. We had incredible meetings overnight with one of the biggest developers here in Santa Monica, the second owners after the city of Santa Monica, because they own so much land. And he'll completely trust me. He'll go home the night before, and then the next morning I had a completely, totally different design to present in front of the client. So I love the fact that he trusted me so much. And I was with him for about 5 years. And after the 5th year, I was getting a little bit tired of designing buildings in Santa Monica. I have a couple buildings here. And I just told myself, you know what? I think I want to have my own practice and start my own thing. So I left that job and I started my own thing. And people were already knowing me from here and there. And I was getting little renovations and single family homes and little projects. And I've noticed that I was just more busy and my stress levels were even higher because now I was my own boss and I had to send out proposals and not get paid for 90 days.
So the accounts receivable, people aren't paying you. You're like, man, how am I going to make this work?
It's like, this person hasn't paid me in like months. And I was just struggling financially a little bit. And my parents and my partner at the time, you're like, oh, this is what it takes to start your own business. It's going to take a year or two until you find some balance. And I was like, oh, but my rent is due and I have all these bills and I'm struggling, just like when I joined architecture school. It's $600. And I was like, I'm this professional architect and I'm just like struggling to go grocery shopping. And so then I was like, oh my God, I wish I had some free time. I want to go to the beach or really enjoy my life because I was working so much. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to outsource and I'm going to be an independent contractor for another architect. And I'm going to charge them a lot of money per hour. So at least I have a steady income in the back. So I did that. And I just started to grow out of the trading my time for money. It was something that I was putting proposals like, oh, I'm going to work on this project for 400 hours. And then this is how much I'm going to charge you for my time. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna quit. I'm just gonna figure it out. So I stopped working for the architects and I signed up to Landmark. It's a personal development course. And I didn't have that much money saved, but I invested like all my money in personal development courses. And I just wanted to learn a lot more about myself so I can create a different reality for my life, because I was just sucked in the program. I was like, should I go back and to get another master's degree? Or should I go back to school and spend another few $1,000s and then go back into practice and then not be? So I was just a little bit lost, and I enrolled myself in these courses, and it was like a huge awakening. Because it's like, I've been putting all this meaning into things when in fact this is what I want, or I've been pretending so many things. And this is where I had my awakening, and I said, you know, I love to cook. I've been cooking for my sisters and my mom and my parents since I was like 7 or 8. And I'm an excellent chef. You know, like I can explore cooking. And I actually also like to design some jewelry.
Yeah.
and you know, very creative, futuristic jewelry, which is all sacred geometry, 3D printed in different materials. And I told my mom, I think I'm going to kind of quit architecture for a little bit and I'm going to design jewelry and cook. And she almost had a heart attack. I had a fight with my dad.
Right.
Because they're like, you're an architect and you're a professional. What do you mean you're going to cook and design jewelry? And I was like, you don't understand. That's what I want now. I just want more peace. For
sure. It's funny because when you said, like in the beginning of the podcast, you said like, I'm an actual architect. I thought I was like, is she speaking literally or she's talking about like, they have like the human design and like, you're architecting your life however you want. Like, so I wasn't sure if that's what you meant. So I was like, yeah, sure. Whatever. But no, you're an actual architect. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was at the city hall getting permits, engineer, contractor, civil, just dealing with so many people. I would sit in tables with 20 guys and it would just be me leading the design.
Yeah.
And it was funny because at the time I was very, very fit and I would sit in the table and all the men would just look at my shoulders and they would start scanning my body and they're like, oh my gosh, this girl, maybe she's the secretary. And then I was like, okay, this is the design drawing. This is the set for the architectural review board. This is what we're doing, this and that. And it felt that I was really into my masculine for a long time. Yeah. And when I decided to design jewelry and cook and teach people how to be healthy, I was transitioning into my feminine of like surrendering to what my heart desires and creating that alchemy of tuning in. And I started to take clients that would hit me on Instagram and they say, hey, how can I have your apps? Hey, how can I, be fit? And I was charging like $150 for like all this time. And then one of my friends was like, you're worth so much more than that. Why don't you just decide your worth and don't settle for anything less?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I started to do that. And then I aligned with Troy.
Yeah. Because
I was hosting a cooking class, a raw vegan cooking class, and Troy came to my class at the end, and it was my friend's raw earth house.
Yeah.
And it was everybody showed up, and he was like, "Oh, why don't you do my nutrition program?" And I was like, "What do you mean if I do your nutrition program? Why don't you do my nutrition program?"
Is he talking about Purium or what?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and at that time I was hustling. I was having tons of cooking classes, and I was doing some little architecture, small work on the side to sustain my financials. And when I found out about the Superfood company, I was like, oh, wait, I've been dealing with building block materials as concrete, steel, rebar, tiles, toilets. I've been dealing with all these materials to putting together a home. And I need to start thinking about building materials to build people's bodies. And I didn't want to let go of my architectural practice, so I wanted to use the same methodology of being an architect,
building a foundation,
to build a body.
Yeah.
The exact same procedure. You start with the schematic design. Okay, what is the basic? What is the height limitation of a building? What is your healthy weight?
Yep.
So what are the setbacks? What's holding you back?
Yeah.
Using the same exact terminology, but started to design bodies.
It's pretty awesome.
And then we go into design development. Okay, this is how we're going to develop the design. Start looking more into a little bit more details. Yeah. Okay, so what kind of foods are you eating, or what are your dreams? Starting to look at developing your design instead of developing a building. And then we go into construction documents, which is the third phase of architecture. Okay, now these construction documents, we are going to look into specific building blocks. Yeah. Right? So what kind of superfoods are you eating? How are you going to build? What kind of thoughts are you having? Because that's all building your reality. It's all building your body. Instead of looking, okay, this is a type 3 or type 5 construction, and we're going to use, 2x4s or whatever.
Right.
So I started to guide my clients through the same architectural development.
Right.
And then we go into business management. Once the building is completed, you got to manage it. And then we have to, maintain maintenance of our body, of our thoughts, our meditation practice, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So this is how I got into transitioning into health.
That's awesome.
And
did you go to school to get like some certificate to say, hey, I'm a certified dietitian or whatever the case
I'm
may
a
be?
certified health coach. I did take some exams.
The reason I asked is not to be pretentious. It was more in a way to be like, you don't need that shit. I think that there's an intuitive knowledge that I think some people have. I think that we all have, but not a lot of people are tapped into it.
Yeah.
And so I think there's also people that are out there that claim to be health coaches, but then you look at the byproduct of that, and you're like, well, I don't know if I want to look like that. So I felt like an ass. Like when I would say that to people, they'd be like, oh, you should hook up with this person, and they'll tell you how to get in charge of your finances or get in charge of that. It's like, but they're not in charge of that. So their life doesn't show that it's working for them. So why would they tell me how to do it? But you can look at you can tell you eat healthy, you work out, whatever. So I'd be more prone to listen to you about diet and exercise. I don't need to see your certificate either.
Yeah, but I do. I am a certified health coach. And just like you said, I have so much experience from years and years that I took the exam without even studying. And I was like, is this even real? This is a silly thing.
Yep.
So that just lets you know that anyone can become a certified health coach.
Right. For
literally,
sure.
Anyone can become an architect.
Yeah.
But only those that are actually resonating with the passion inside of them are the ones that are going to thrive. And I always say people don't know how much you know until they know how much you care.
It's true. It's true. Definitely.
So when you start projecting how much you care about things, it doesn't matter what you bring up, people are going to tune in with you.
Right. How unsafe did you feel when you left the architect kind of deal? Because for me, I'm in this right now, actively right at this moment. I just turned down a job offer to go back to corporate, and everything inside of me, mentally, it made logical sense for me to go back to work. It's okay, cool. I can go back, I can make X amount of dollars. I could pay off this debt, or I could do this or do that. And life would just be a little less stressful financially. But the feeling on that was I'm going to be it was making me nauseous. Even thinking about being back in the grind, and working ungodly hours for things that I don't really care about. It's it wasn't. And I think that's where a lot of people now are kind of in that right now, where it's they're not passionate about what they're doing. They're doing this job just for a paycheck. And I honor those people because I know it's hard and it's not what you want to be doing, but you kind of have to be doing it. So for you, how was that transition from going from the security of an actual job where you're making a lot of money and then basically saying, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself and do something completely different that I'm passionate about? Can you talk about that at all?
It was extremely challenging.
Right.
It was a fight with myself because I had a lot of limiting beliefs. And I thought that I had to go back to architecture in order to be financially stable.
Right.
I didn't have faith that doing what I wanted to do was going to manifest abundance of money.
Right.
But I was just so attached to the idea of oh my God, the rent is due next week and I have $0.
Yeah.
How am I going to afford this? And immediately my fear, my ego that was trying to keep me protected, go back and take an architectural job.
Right.
That's your comfort zone. Everything's going to be paid for if you take an architecture job.
Right.
And then I was like, no, but I need to expand. My soul is craving something more.
Yep.
And I crave helping people be healthy. I crave seeing, the planet shiny.
Right. Yeah.
And I've done a lot of personal growth because I've noticed that it all coming from my psyche and my thoughts. Because now I practice different mantras where I just tell myself money comes to me from seen and unseen ways in abundance every day. I'm only going to tune in with my heart and everything will be taken care of. Right. And I'm not going to be afraid of spending money because money comes to me from seen and unseen ways. Yeah. And I start tuning in with doing what I want. I remember I was with Robert one time and we were at Irwin. and this really expensive organic supermarket.
Right.
And I didn't have that much money, but I really wanted to buy ice cream. So I went to the sales and I was like, which one's the cheapest ice cream? I need to look for the cheapest ice cream. And I really wanted the one that was like $9, but there was one on sale for like $5.49. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to take the $5.49. And like Rod told me, if you settle for the cheap one, you're going to keep attracting what you settle for. And I immediately said, okay, I'm just going to buy the $9 ice cream. And that day was like a huge awakening for me, because now I tune in with what I want. And I'm not scared of not having something, because then I fall into the lacking mentality.
How did that shift for you though? Because I think like a lot of us, myself included, like I've always had an intuitive knowing that everything's going to be okay. Like everything's going to work out, and call it God, call it universe, call it whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter to me. Like for me, it's like it's an intuitive like intelligence. Like it's a universal intelligence that everything for me will be okay. It will always work out. But lately it's been like, shit, like, I don't know. I'm kind of starting to question a little bit of it. And I think that happens for a lot of people, because you have like you said, like you have bills that are coming out, you have rent that's due. Like for me, I have my mortgage and this and that. And it's like, so I'm finding ways to let go. For me, what I've been doing is letting go of attachment to things. So like I drive a Suburban and it's fully loaded and it's like, it's a beautiful car and like whatever. And I'm like, why do I need this? Like what, for what? Like it's paid off and I don't need this car. Like I'll drive a minivan. I don't care. You know, like if it gets me from point A to point B, like so be it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I put it on the market. I'm just gonna sell it and like use that money for something else. But how would you tell somebody that's like stuck in that fear state? How do they shake it? How did you shake it?
I asked myself, what is my heart desires? If I have all the money in the world and money wasn't a limitation, what would I do?
Yeah.
Like, I just had to make this decision last month.
Yeah.
And I'm still, like 2 years in. Yeah. And I got this offer. And I was like, oh my God, if I take this offer, my rent is completely paid. Yep. And my car and all these things. But something inside of me was like, oh no, really? Now I'm going to have to dedicate time to this thing? Yeah. But oh my gosh, but all my bills will be paid for. And then I went to a beach walk and I was like, okay, if money wasn't a limitation, would I still go and take this job? And I was like, hell no. Yeah. If I had all the money, I wouldn't take this job. So I was like, I already got my answer. And I had to let go of that fear. Right. And say, no, I'm just going to keep following my heart.
I love it, because that's the biggest thing is like it's always tied to money, like how mortgage and car payments and bills and utilities, whatever. But that's a great like exercise to do. Like ask yourself, like, hey, like if money wasn't an object, what would I do? And for me, it wouldn't be going back to corporate. I can say that right now.
For me, oh my gosh, just thinking about it,
right?
Like having to wake up at 7, clock in, and then go to a lunch break and clock out. That's depleting.
But could you stay like on the path that you're on right now? Like, could you stay on that path if you were working like as an architect financially to give you like a little bit of financial security? Do you think it would take away from like some of the passionate things that you're doing now?
Yes. Yeah, because energy goes where intention flows. Right. So if I'm focusing in one thing, all my energy is being channeled into growing one thing. The moment that I have multiple things going on, my energy, it's being split. Right, a little bit of energy is going here, a little bit of energy is going there. It's like part-time. Yeah. If you want to make full-time money, work full-time. If you want to make part-time money, make part-time. Yeah. And if you want to grow something, just focus on one thing. And I'm so talented at many things. I'm an excellent cook, so retreat centers are always calling me to cook for retreats. Yeah. I'm an architect. I'm designing many things because I'm a graphic designer and architecture, and I'm a health coach, and I'm really good at fitness and sports, and people want me to train them. Yeah. And I love to take care of plants, but you have to make a choice. And I think many of the issues come because people don't have a distinction of making decision and choices. And decisions always come with considerations. Right? I want this, but I also like the other one. Oh, I want this, but I like the other one too. So when you are making decisions, there's so many considerations. There are infinite considerations, right? But when you make a choice, you keep your integrity. Because I always say successful people do what they said that they were going to do no matter what. Whether it's raining, whether there's a storm, whether they have a headache, or maybe they're crying, you know, you follow through with your integrity.
Right.
And that's when you see things change and expand. And there's many, many layers of us. We're like an onion. There's many layers of us that peel away every single day. Yeah. And our energy expands. And there's people and job opportunities and experiences that are going to come to you and complement the energy where you are today. And you're going to grow out of it. And then those people, those jobs, those experiences are going to fall away, and new ones are going to complement you where you are now, constantly. You know, this is how we can activate our consciousness to activate the whole collective, the whole human consciousness.
Love it.
And we just have to allow ourselves to keep expanding. And expanding is uncomfortable, but it's always our ego that tries to keep us safe where we are.
For sure. That's like the advice I needed to hear. It's
perfect. Literally like surrendering to your everything. When you completely let go expectations with your thoughts. Expectations, it was a really huge thing for me. Because I was just living my life running by expectations. My partner show up this way, my job show up this way, my best friend should show up a certain way. Like, people should show up how I want them to show up, and if they don't, I'm disappointed. Right. And I've learned that we all have our values and our ideals, and most people run their lives based on their ideals. My ideal relationship should be like this. My mom should call me at this time, or my job should pay me this much money, because that's my standard of my ideal. Right. Okay. And if people don't comply with your ideals, which your ideals are completely different than mine, right? Like, a friendship is totally different than yours. Then there's disappointment and there's harmony and there's not workability. But if we run our lives based on our values, like, what are your values? Like, for me, my values are self-expression, being authentic, unconditional love, respect, trust. And if I can switch from running my relationship or my job with my ideal to now I'm going to run it with my values. I'm going to self-express, I'm going to have trust, I'm going to have unconditional love. Is that resonating with you? If it's not, then you got to keep moving on. And you won't be disappointed because you're still tuned in with your values.
Yeah, it's huge. I think in the past, like in my life, for sure, everything was based on ideals. Everything. So, like, I would show up in the world, like, with my friends, with my family, like, full of loyalty, full of, like, dude, I will do anything for you. I'll bend over backwards. And then when it wasn't reciprocated, I was hurt. I was, like, damaged by that. Like, oh, I can't believe, like, you wouldn't do that for me. I would do it for you. Like, what the fuck, you know? And I'm sitting here, like, all pissed. And, like, I found myself being angry, like, always. Like, just completely disappointed. And my uncle told me something one time, that expectations equal disappointment. And we were talking about his father, my grandfather, and he was I was just asking him questions about him, and he's like, you know, I spent a lot of years being pissed off, and I finally came to the conclusion that the more I expect from him, the more I'm going to be disappointed. And when I shifted that for myself, like when I shifted my expectations on people, my life became a lot happier.
Oh, yeah.
What I started to do was honor, like, what my value system was. So, like, I can have boundaries. It's okay to have boundaries. You know, like, I have a relationship with my brother where it was terrible. Like, we had this horrible relationship, didn't speak to each other. And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't want my brother in my life because I don't feel like he's safe for me. But I do need to close that, like, life energy force. It's like, it's blocking life force from coming through me if I don't, like, heal some of that with him. So the other day I sent him a message and was like, hey man, like, I forgive you for, like, anything that ever happened. I forgive you. Like, I'm sorry for anything I've ever done to you. I'm not inviting you back into my life, but I am letting you know that, like, I'm releasing any of that stuff that we have with each other. Be free.
So you close your heart.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was just telling this to one of my friends. Do you ever remember a time in your life where you had a girlfriend that you really liked, but she broke up on you, and you're laying in the couch or in your bed completely depressed. You don't have any energy to go out with your friends. You haven't showered. You haven't done your laundry. Everything is like you're just exhausted, right? And then 2 months later, you're still in the same depression mode, no energy, not working out. And then she calls you and she's like, hey, Josh.
Burst of energy.
I'm so sorry. I didn't meant to break up with you. No, I really miss you. Can I see you tonight? all of a sudden your eyes open really big.
Yeah.
You shower, you do your laundry, you change, you clean up, you stay up all night, you watch the sunrise, and you're still in a rush of energy, and you're like, what happened? Nothing changed. You didn't eat more food, or you just didn't detox your body. You just tapped into your heart, and your heart was closed, so there was no life force flowing through your body.
Yep.
But the moment that you open your heart, you have an energy burst.
Yeah.
So if we can tune in to living our lives with our open heart all day, every single day, you're going to live in that high of energy.
For sure.
And I mean, we're made out of energy. In one atom, is that how you pronounce it? Atom.
Yeah.
One atom can create an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Right? And we are made of atoms. So imagine how much energy and how much power is within in your heart. It's just, again, tuning in with our heart. I mean, it has a frequency that projects up to like over 50 feet out. Or even more. I forgot what the statistics are. But if we can tune in with it, we're going to have the rush of energy.
Totally. And I think that's where, like, a lot of people, when you have someone say, like, oh, that person has a bad vibe, or they're giving me bad vibes, it's because you're picking up on that heart energy. And I think sometimes when people are closed off or rigid or whatever, you're going to feel that. You're going to feel like that bad energy or whatever, and it's going to be emanating off of them. And you're going to be like, oh, I'm not really aligned with that right now, so I'm not going to entertain it. And I think for me personally, like, that's where a lot of my life was being lived, was like from a place that was closed off, and I was closing myself off to even other opportunities, because I had so many things that I wasn't processing, things that I wasn't like getting over. I was kind of getting over them mentally, but like not emotionally or spiritually. I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. I made sense of it in my head, and it's all good. I've processed it. But now lately, like, I work with a spiritual teacher, and that's part of the journey that we're on right now, is like meeting people from the heart, meeting people from the gut, and like really making that true, authentic, like human connection with people. And to close the loop with people that you have any blocks with. And that doesn't mean like inviting them into your life. That doesn't mean that you need to like take all your walls down and your barriers down, because it's okay. I think it's healthy to have boundaries in place, you know?
Definitely.
But I do think that there is a fine science to even inviting, like with my brother, I was like entertaining the idea of like, oh, maybe I'll just like put something in the room, like a pillow or something to represent his energy, and like have a conversation with him to close that kind of energetic loop with him. I was like, no, I need to send him a message just to like, so he can hear like, or feel like where I'm coming from in my heart level.
Yeah, and definitely most of those issues are our own wounds, and they're our own shadows and our own thorns. Right. So I was just explaining to you briefly before we started the podcast, there's like, pretend that you have a thorn in your shoulder. Yep. And so what do you try to do with it? You try to protect it, right? If I'm going to give you a hug, you're going to make sure that you pull away, because I'm going to touch your thorn. Right. If you go hiking, you're going to make sure the bushes don't touch it, because it's going to hurt you. Yep. And so you try to become a little bit more protective, and you're like, oh, I'm going to invent this tool, so I'm going to put it on top of my thorn, so when people get so close to me, they don't touch it. Yep. But guess what? Now you're running your life with this tool trying to protect the thorn, and you're trying to forget that the thorn is there. Totally. And that's your expectations. Yep. That's your disappointment, your abandonment. That's your feeling victimized thorn. Yep. Right? Because these thorns are full in our heart, where our heart is full of thorns, and needing validation is a thorn. There's all these thorns, but the best way to get over it is just to pull out the thorn. I mean, imagine you invent this other object where now it allows you to get closer to people, and you don't have to feel it, but it's still in your shoulder. And the thorn is still in your body, and you're like, oh, but now I can't feel it, because now it doesn't hurt anymore, because I put all this like armature around it, and you're trying to cover the thorn, but the thorn is still in there. Yep. And then the best way to do it is just to remove the thorn. Right. You just have to do it.
It's huge. Like I, at the first men's group I went to, like that was part of the process. But the huge process for me was like dropping all the walls that I had in front of me. You know what I mean? Like I explained to you before, like being in the military, it wasn't encouraged to be open and candid and like authentic with your feelings. It was more like all up in the mind, and like mindset's everything. Don't be a pussy. Like you just motor through things and you get over it. And I think that I honor some of that. Like it's like, there's a time and place for that, sure, you know, to be in your head and just be mental and do the things that you need to do to get by. But at a certain point, I think you need to have an openness, to yourself and like let go of some of that armor that you've been carrying with you to protect yourself. And the minute that I did, I felt like I've been inviting like new things into my life every day as a result. The connections that I have with people are way more authentic. Also, what's happened is like some of the connections I thought I had no longer exist. And I'm not upset about that. I'm not like sad about it. I'm not like, oh my God, like it's terrible. It's more like that needed to happen. You know what I mean? Like there was an openness that happened with me that I realized that there were some connections that weren't true, authentic connections. It was just a surface level connection. And now I'm like craving it. I'm craving authentic connections with people. So I love it.
You definitely, you raise your vibration.
Yeah.
So it's like a radio station. You will tune in with people that tune into your station.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean they're dead or they disappear. They're still there.
Yeah.
Like I still can't believe that people watch TV. Or I was wondering yesterday, I wonder what's on commercials on TV.
Right. I don't own a TV either.
Right? Like I haven't watched TV in over 10 years. I was like, do commercials are about DirecTV or what are commercials about?
Right.
But that doesn't mean that the commercials aren't happening. They're still happening. We're just at another frequency. So we're not aware. And this is what it is. Awareness means to become aware. So we are not our body. I'm going to get very metaphysical here.
Yeah, please.
But we all have this room in our head, right, that talks.
Yeah.
And it's our brain. And it's our psyche. But that's not who we really are, right? We are our higher consciousness. My soul is your soul. Yeah. We all share this exact same soul, which comes from source. So once we acknowledge that we are not our bodies, our heart is its own entity, our legs are their own entity, we are the awareness in the body. Yeah. And everything that we're going through is just an experience. So when people feel pain, it's an experience of the object. It's an experience of our body. It doesn't mean that we are in pain. We are the awareness that is aware that the body's in pain.
Right.
And the way to get out of it, like let's say pain, it's to hold space for it. Allow the pain to be felt in your object, in your body, and like hold space for it.
Yep.
Hold space for the pain, like find it first. Like you are the awareness. Where is it hurting? Is it hurting on my chest? And it's like radiating through my throat. And I could feel the pain coming through here. The best way to get through the pain is to have a breakthrough. Like go through the fire, go through the pain, and you're going to get to the other end. But for that, you need to be friends with it. So you need to hold space for it. Yeah. And you'll notice that when you hold space for it, it stops hurting.
I tried to explain that to so many people, and I've never been able to articulate it as beautifully as you just did. But when I had my 6th back surgery, I decided that because I was largely addicted to opiates and benzos, I quit all of it. I was like, I don't want to go down that road again. Mm-hmm. So I agreed that I would take the medication they gave me in the hospital. But the minute I left Cedars-Sinai, I was done. I wasn't taking medication anymore. Mm-hmm. And it was a huge undertaking. It was a 12-hour operation. They went through my stomach, they went through my back, wow. Rods and screws and all kinds of other stuff. And part of like getting, people ask me, how did you do that without pain pills? How did you like meet that pain and like get over it? And I was like, you know what? I think the way I did it was just by allowing. Yeah. I knew that it was there. But I would do like a Zen meditation and allow my body to just do whatever it needed to do. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't like staying hyper focused on that pain. It wasn't like, oh my God, it's so painful. And like, there were times where like it was absolute torture, where it's like, oh, this is like terrible. But the minute that I took the awareness away from the pain and kind of just let it do what it's natural. It's supposed to happen. You know what I mean? Like it's all good. And I kind of shut my brain off and like just went into a meditative state. I would do that like in like increments of like sometimes like 10 seconds. Where it's like, I'm okay, 10 more seconds. Okay, another 10 seconds. Okay, another 20 seconds. Okay, another minute. And I would do that usually overnight because like at nighttime, everyone's asleep. It's dark. No one, like you feel like you're alone kind of in your own pain. And that's how I do it. That's how I would get through the nights is I would just do it in little increments. However long or short those increments were, that's what I did to get through it. But I think that's a great, like just allow it. Like just become the observer, observe that it's there, but like you don't need to become so attached to it,
It's just that when we see pain as something negative,
Right.
We become the victim. And that's another thorn in your heart that needs some healing.
Yeah,
that
why
needs to be
me?
pulled out. Right. Yeah, because it's like, no, this pain is just an awesome experience, and it's gonna go away. It's just coming through, because like everything in life comes and goes. Yeah. But if you hold this attachment to the pain, then you're a victim.
Yeah, that, and I think being like the allower. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like with my anxiety, I have real bad social anxiety, so that's how I got on the benzos. You know, and so like I would get to this point where like I'd be like, oh my God, I have a headache. Oh, I have anxiety. Like all these things were happening to me. So what I would do is I would try to like chase those symptoms. Like, okay, let me take a pill for that. Let me take a this for that. I mean, it's like, why don't you just presence the fact that it's there. Like, okay, cool. I'm feeling anxious right now. That's fantastic. I'm not going to die from it. It's okay. I may feel like I'm dying, but like I'm not dying. It's all good. And just allowing it to be there, you know?
Sit back.
Right, for sure. Yeah. And breathe into that. And I think a lot of people, because it's like, it sounds like woo-woo, and people are like totally like, you know, like the Western model has definitely taken over in America. Yeah. So it's like, of course, it sounds like very like airy-fairy, and come on, you know what I mean? You're just gonna breathe into it, like whatever. It's like, it works. I've done it, you know? Yeah.
Sit back, allow it, and become the observer.
Right.
And then you're going to get distracted.
Yeah, before long it goes away.
Yeah.
Something
and
else
you're like, oh,
place.
I forgot to take off the laundry. You know, like literally, like your brain will switch immediately.
What do you think the biggest catalyst was for you to have the awakening that you did? Do you think it was Landmark, or do you think, what was it, do you think?
I think it was my desire for something more.
Right.
I mean, Landmark was definitely a big tool. Yeah. I felt like enlightened for like a month after the program, because I was just able to spot how people were living their lives running a story, and everyone has their own story.
Can you share about Landmark? I don't know what the parameters are, or what you're allowed to share about it, what you aren't. Like,
yeah, I think I can share. So pretty much the premise is that you know the things that you know. Right. Like you know how to speak English, you know how to drive a car, you know everything that you know. Yeah. You also know the things that you don't know, which is you know that you don't know how to speak Chinese. You know that you don't know how to fly an airplane. And you know everything that you don't know. So that's like this tiny. The things that you know are this tiny. Right. But imagine all the things that you don't know that you don't know. And that's the infinite possibilities in your life that you're missing out. And those are the blind spots that are kind of keeping you from expanding. Because once you start learning the things that you don't know, I mean, imagine how many things. Like I didn't know that I was an like amazing health coach. And I didn't know that I could, create an empires of leaders to end human suffering, which is my purpose in life, is to end human suffering. And there's many different ways: changing people's thoughts, healing their guts. So serotonin can produce in a healthy way, and then heal the hormones, heal the body, be happy. Serotonin defines what mood you're going to be on every day. Right. So I didn't know that I was so good at that. And I gave myself a chance. I created the possibility. Yeah. And, I created the possibility of abundance, of independence, of health. I create many opportunities and possibilities every single day. So Landmark was great to allow myself to become aware of like, oh my gosh, I have so many blind spots. I'm going to start discovering them. Yeah. And I'm a making meaning machine. I put meaning into everything. Just because my friend canceled on me on dinner doesn't mean that she doesn't love me or that her other plan is more important than me. But like my brain will be back to its program of putting in meanings. Right. And carrying pains and relationships that are not even mine, that come from my parents and from my ancestors and all my lineage, that it feels mine. Right. And as I started to do more personal growth and reading books and being around people that are awakened to me, right. that are like in another vibe than I am, I started to discover that I am just an extension of Source having an experience. And everything that I put into my vortex will manifest.
That's awesome. Totally.
And sometimes I'm still like sitting in bed and thinking, okay, this is Source and I'm a fractal. And then I'm just a human that comes out of the fractal and what's happening. And I just like brainstorm myself.
Totally. No, I used to do that like whenever I would smoke cannabis, I'd like go down that rabbit hole of like, dude, what is the point? Like it's because like you keep like asking all these crazy questions. Like it would create like a lot of anxiety for me actually, because I was like, dude, what am I doing here? Like what is going on? And so I told myself that until like I can get to a place where I have these intuitive knowings, like without the use of cannabis, without the use of anything else, I'm just going to like refrain from it,
Yeah.
Because I felt like it was almost taking away from, it was almost like a checkout for me. It's like I would smoke weed to like check out from reality a little bit. And so I started asking myself, in what ways in my life have I been checking out and not allowing myself to meet the world more fully?
Yeah.
And so that, whether that be through cannabis, whether that be through pornography, whether that be through, watching or being on my phone or social media too much or like whatever, like asking myself before I do things, like have an intentionality with it. Like, okay, I'm going to do this, but why am I doing it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think with weed, it was more like of a checkout. And then I would go down this rabbit hole of like, dude, what am I doing? Like this is crazy.
Yeah. I've never been into weed or any psychedelics.
Right.
Like ever, even through
Are you open to it
architecture.
now or no?
I am. So when I was in architectural school, everybody was high and LSD, and that's how they channel their best designs and art pieces. Yeah. And I will be in design studio 3-4 in the morning, and I'm like jamming my little classical music, the drawing or whatever, and everybody was like super high. Yeah. And I'm like, why do these people need to smoke so much in order to make cool designs? Why can't they just tap in a different way? So I'm always been a believer that you can tap in with your own DMT through your breath or your own like passion, either if it's through channel it through music or other things. But about 3 months ago, I did a plant medicine journey.
Ayahuasca?
No, I actually did 5-MeO DMT.
Oh, okay.
Plants.
Nice.
And I've never done anything and my friend is like, oh, why don't you just try 5-MeO DMT? It's like the death experience. I was like, the what? You become God and you're going to know what God feels like. So that kind of stayed in my head. And I was like, I know I'm God, but I kind of know what God feels like. So I was like really, really curious. And at the same time, I wanted to completely have a full reset of my life. Like just pressing the reset button. Yep. And I was going through a lot of personal confusions and what should I do and yada yada, and friends that were falling away, and I was like, I need to restructure like the neuroplasticity of my brain. And what a better thing that's just to have an overdose of DMT going into my brain. So I was like, okay, I want to do it. I decided the same day. I didn't even prepare or nothing. I was like, I'm ready to know what God feels like. Right. And I'm going in this journey. So I called the shaman and he's like, okay, just come over to my house at like 5. Yeah. And part of my heart was like beating so fast. And I'm like, what are you going to do? You're literally going to die. Like, cause you go through like the whole enlightenment process. Yep. And I was like, that's fine. It's okay. I just want to reset. I just want to see life differently. I want to feel all the love of everyone in the whole universe. And I did some breath work. We did a bunch of rounds of breath work, and my whole body was like convulsing because I was like so nervous. And it was pretty much, I was looking for every single excuse not to do it anymore. But my higher self wanted to do it. It was just my ego like, oh no, you're going to destroy me. Yeah. Right? Because totally. You go through that.
You want to stay in this reality. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're going to go through ego death. And I was like, it's all right. Like, I don't want to do it. That's why I'm going to do it. Because this is how I'm going to expand. And I've never been a believer of psychedelics ever. This was like my first time ever. Right. Like I just had a calling and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And it was amazing. I had like the best trip ever. That's like awesome. Full enlightenment, connecting with like the whole universe and the love of the whole cosmos. It's like I've never felt that much love. And now it's like I know that deep sacred love exists because I felt it.
That's awesome. How long was that trip? How long was that journey?
Mine was 20 minutes.
Okay.
It's usually really fast. You go in and out. So you do a deep dive where you smoke a lot of DMT. Yeah. I was gone instantly. Like as soon as I inhale, I was done. It's kind of like you put your fingers on a matrix. Right. And it's the dissolution of the self. Right. So you become consciousness.
Were you fearful, like, at that moment? Like, when you, like, shifted off into a different, like, realm? Was there, like, fear?
No, because you dissolve the self. You don't exist anymore. You are consciousness. Consciousness has no fear.
What were some of the awakenings that you had? Or some of the
I'm
realizations?
still in the integration process, but that I'm a very resistant person.
Yeah.
That I've been resisting the flow of life. Instead of saying, this job is gone. Okay, goodbye. I'm moving on. Yeah. Or like, this relationship is not working. Okay, let it go. Yeah. Like, open up to new experiences. Completely surrender. Because part of my I was going through the vortex through enlightenment. I was resisting so much going through and like completely surrendering, and I've never completely surrendered. Like even now, today, like sometimes I lay down and I try to practice and like completely surrendering, and it's like I'm tensing up my forehead, or my arm is not relaxed completely, and like completely letting go of the body and just becoming the source. So I really got that I needed to work on surrendering to my feminine a lot more. And just part of being an architect and being in an environment where it's fully, men driven, going to construction sites. And then I was an Olympic weightlifter as well, and a CrossFit athlete. And I try to compete with all the boys and lift more weights than all the girls and run faster and beat everyone in competition. And it's always been this competitive of like, I have to do more and more and more, when it's a very masculine trait. Right? The feminine is about surrendering and letting it come. Yeah. So I definitely got that. And I've been implementing it, and I've been creating so much abundance in everything.
That's awesome.
And all you have to do is surrender, because the universe, God always has your back.
I dig it.
You got your own back.
For sure.
You just got to talk to your higher self. Like, we're so disconnected to talking to our higher self. We don't talk to our heart. We don't talk to parts of our body, which they're all working together. Right. To create your experience.
Yep. Love it. What's if you had one person or one book that inspired you the most your entire life, who would that person be, and what would that book be? Why?
A book, The Untethered Soul. Have you read it?
Yeah, well, it's on my audio, so like I've listened to part of it, but I'm like such a ADHD, like whatever, like squirrel, it's like I like something else will grab my attention. So like I have like so many audiobooks that are like on play that like I've listened to like, a couple hours, where I go to the next one, then the next one, then the next one. Yeah. So like, why The Untethered Soul?
Because it explains your consciousness and relationship through the external objects. Right. And how we're so attached to the external objects that are really a projection of our consciousness. Yeah. So I suggest that everyone should read that book. And then one person that inspires me, I would say it is my mom.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What brought them to America? Why did you guys come here when you guys came to Florida? I never asked you that.
They just migrated to work and give us a better lifestyle. Yeah. We just came to work. My parents worked, and they wanted us to learn English and have better food and better clothes and create opportunities. So we were immigrants. Right.
Do you regret, looking back on that, not regret, but do you wish your parents maybe would have stayed in Argentina, or do you feel like everything happened as it was intended to and it was totally cool?
I think it was totally cool.
Good.
Yeah. For the longest time, I was like, I wish I would have been in my country with my roots. And now it's like I'm making such a big impact in people's lives, and I wouldn't be here if it didn't unfold this way.
Yeah, totally. The other thing I wanted to ask you is if you had one lesson that you learned your entire life that you could tell a younger Carolina Sima, if you could tell someone that was younger, that was coming up through life, hey, this is what I learned, and I learned it the hard way, so I'm going to save you some of the heartache. What would that lesson be that you'd want to teach somebody, and why?
So one of the lessons will be learning to let go. Yeah. And the reason for that is because I'm very, very emotional and sensitive. Right. And part part of it could be my star system. I'm a Pisces and moon, Pisces on the sun. I'm like a complete emotional wave, like water being. Right. And I took a lot of things personal as I was growing up. Yeah. Like, oh, they didn't invite me to go play. And I would just cry in my little corner and just surrendering. Like, you're okay on your own. This is your own experience. Right. Like, again, surrendering and not being attached to anything. I think that will be my biggest message to my little self.
Yeah. The other thing I want to ask you is if someone else is like out there that they have like a sense, just like you did, just like I did, that like there's something bigger. Like what I'm doing is really not what I'm passionate about. How would you guide that person into kind of finding what their purpose is or finding what their passion is? Like to get off of the couch and kind of like get out of like, because I think a lot of people like they're so not dumbed down, but like there's so many things to like distract from like finding that purpose. Like where it's like we talk about having a TV. Like I don't own a TV, neither do you, and it's like part of that. Like I spend too much time on social media. I'm aware of that, but like I don't want the TV because that's just one more distraction for me, you know, to like take away from what I'm trying to do in life. So what would you tell somebody, or how would you guide somebody into kind of exploring what their passion or their purpose is, or see if what they're doing is what they're meant to do?
Okay, so I would guide them through 3 steps. First is to craft their story. Yeah. Where do they come from? What is their story? Really know your story, because this is how we can tap in and start inspiring other people as well through our story. So really know your story. Then discover what your stance is. Like, what are you standing for? Right. Like, I am personally standing for ending human suffering, healing people's guts, allowing people to renegotiate their relationship with food. I think it goes back to the basics of like, what are you standing for, right. Josh? Yeah. What is your heart desires? Like, know what turns on your heart. What is it that you deeply want? And then start creating a structure for that. Yeah. So you have your story, you have your stance, and then you need to have a structure. And this is when you get to action. Like, surround yourself by people that are where you want to be. Yeah. Like, start working on your personal self-development. Start reading books. Start taking self-development courses. Surround yourself with an empowering group of people. Yeah.
Like, so awesome that like I didn't tell you any of the questions I was going to ask you, and like you didn't even hesitate on that answer. Like that was such a beautiful answer, and you didn't even like let me think about that for a second. It was like bam, you just had the answer right there. I love it. I love it. What about like you talk about gut health and you talk about like being a health coach. As far as like diet and exercise, because I know a lot of people that listen to the podcast are like they're always interested for like new information. What would you tell somebody like is a good start to like starting to get healthy, getting away from some of that like quick fix, fast food, highly processed food? Like what would be like a good like stepping stone to get to optimal health as far as diet and nutrition? Okay.
The first thing will be to start taking Superfoods nutrition. Yep. For example, I take the Power Shake. Yep. It has 6 servings of fruits and vegetables in the morning, and I take some vegan protein. They're very simple capsules that you take in the morning, and then before going to sleep I take antioxidants, which are fruits, very very red, like cherries, because the majority of the people are lacking vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. And antioxidants is what keeps your longevity. If you are in an oxidizing diet, what happens to batteries when they oxidize?
Get all corroded.
Right, they don't work anymore. Same thing does your body. So if you're not having a high antioxidant diet, you're oxidizing. So you're aging, you're creating more wrinkles in your face, your organs aren't working as properly because they're oxidizing. So take high antioxidants at night and start with that. You know, you can start making better options. I personally always say stay 100% organic. Right. If you don't find organic options, fast until you find an organic option. Or food supply is contaminated, our body doesn't even recognize our food as food anymore. Your senses are fooled, so you can smell it, you can chew it, and it feels like food, but your organs are going to say, what is this? Yep. This is not having any nourishment. So to start off, have some green leafy superfoods or vegetables. I say superfoods just because they come already packaged. and you don't have to go to the farmer's market and pick it and, you know, make sure it's organic and come home and make a juice and wash, you know, your juicer. So
juicer's a pain in the ass.
Oh my God. I've done the celery protocol from, you know, all the trends that are going, but the truth is that it's convenience, and most people don't have. Most people can be like me, right? Just going in the market, talking to the farmers. What kind of water did you gave that tree? Because I'm about to drink that water in the apple, you know?
Right.
So getting through a nutrition program of superfoods at the beginning. And then as they move forward, and this is what I do with my clients, we start off with just switching a couple things. We're going to switch your lunch, only your lunch. And we're going to start eating more fiber, some healthy fats and protein, and some green vegetables. Dinner, you can eat your normal dinner, what you would eat, as long as you try to make your best choice of being healthy. Because what I've noticed with many years is that people can do really good things in any diet. You can lose weight in your diet. You can do whatever in a diet, and they would work if you follow through. But once you're off of it,
rebound.
You go back into your own way of your metabolism working. So you have to work into tiny little baby steps and allow yourself to create a transformation that will last your whole life. And for that, start baby steps. Like, you don't have to start being like, oh my gosh, meal prepping every single thing, because I've done it and it's not going to work. Especially women that want to lose weight, and they're like, oh, but I'm eating salads every day and I can't lose weight. And I was like, first you need to heal your gut, because your gut is covered with glyphosate. Glyphosate is a toxic herbicide that is being sprayed in all of your fruits and vegetables that are non-organic. Glyphosate lives in your gut. It creates a layer that destroys all the microbiome. It creates brain fog. It unbalances all your hormones, and it prevents your body from nutrient absorption. So your gut can absorb the vitamins of the strawberries that you just bought for $10, because it doesn't have the capability, because it's covered with glyphosate. So I start them off with doing a whole cleanse of their gut, pulling out of the glyphosate. Immediately they feel like rushes of energy, and no longer they're addicted to coffee, and their hormones get balanced. Now they can lose weight because their hormones are going to be working properly, because the body's absorbing nutrition. So healing the gut, especially from glyphosate.
How do you do that?
I take a superfood that has chicory root, humic and flavic acid, that opens up the walls of the cells and pulls out the heavy metals in the glyphosate. And this is being proven to pull out up to 74% of the glyphosate in your gut within 6 weeks.
Wow.
And I can actually give a gift card code. If you go to ishoppurium.com and you enter the code Carol Detox, you're going to get $50 off, a $50 discount to try the Biomedic, it's called. And $60 with if you enter the Carol Detox, is my personal client code, you can get it for $10.
How do you spell it? Carol?
Carol, C-A-R-O, Detox. Carol Detox, ishoppurium.com. And try it out for $10, I think.
Nice.
Because it's $60. And take that within 6 weeks. I actually have it right here. I just bought it because I ran out. Nice. Their packaging comes in biodegradable hemp. So there's zero carbon footprint. There's, no more plastic waste.
That's awesome.
Because plastic is horrible. There's like plastic islands all around the world. We can't even eat fish anymore because plastic decomposes into these tiny little microparticles that they think is algae, and they eat. So the human, any normal human, eats about a credit card amount of plastic every month.
That's crazy.
Plastic that comes from your polyester shirt. Plastic that comes from soft plastic being wrapped in our food. So there's so much plastic that our organs are like, what's going on? Why can't I be healthy? Or why can I lose weight? Why can I heal faster? I mean, you're eating plastic pretty much. And then you're eating fish. You're eating plastic from the fish. And then you're eating polluted food with glyphosate that some of it is just not even recognized as food anymore. So our food supply is extremely contaminated. And you can't be healthier than our environment, right? You can't be healthier than the oceans and the soils.
What's crazy too is like not only just the stuff that we're eating, but there's been a huge thing that's come up for me lately is my wife's best friend just had a breast implant taken out, and she had a BII, breast implant illness, where like her eyes were all yellow, and like you could tell like she was like sick, she looked sickly. So she took the implants out, and her eyes instantly changed. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, that is crazy. And so like I've been wondering, like with me, like where I was like, man, I'm feeling off, and like I don't know, like, I'm really eating healthy, I'm exercising, like what's going on? So I have like metal all through my back. I have like polyether ketone whatever plastic inside of like the front of my spine, and it's like that's not normal. My body's like probably like, what the hell is that? So I've been entertaining like, can I get it taken out? Like, is there any way I can like get it removed and like still like be able to stand up? Like, is that possible? I mean, I don't know if it is, but I think that's the other issue is like not just the food we're eating, but the things that we're implanting into our bodies. You know what I mean? Like whether it be breast implants, whether that be like medical devices for knee replacements and all these other things. Like you need to start thinking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Fillings in your teeth.
Yeah.
All these things are to be taken care of, and it just takes that awareness to know. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to think that hard. You know what I mean? I think that's where I see like a resistance to it, is that it's anxiety ridden, when you start thinking too much about it, like, oh man, like, is this creating a problem for me? I don't know. So a lot of people don't want to think about it. So they just shut it out and like, kind of like, I'll just stay with the program and it's all good. It's safer that way.
Of course. It's comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't question it.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I haven't gone to a scanner in the airport in over 10 years.
How do you get through?
You opt out.
Oh, you can opt out?
Yeah.
How do you do that? I didn't know you can do that.
You put in your luggage to the thing, and when they tell you to go through the scanner, you're saying, I'm opting out.
Right.
So then they're going to take you
down.
They pat you down.
Right.
They take you to the side. You go through a side door, and then they touch you everywhere, and then they're like, you're good.
Wow.
But these things, imagine if everybody in the airport would opt out.
Wow.
And then people are like, oh, you're the weird person. And I was like, you know what? I make sure that I'm early enough so I can opt out, and I don't have to go through the scanner.
Yeah, I didn't even know you could opt out. I mean, I have TSA pre-check, so when I fly, like I get through faster. But like I didn't know that I could opt out, and if I could, I probably would if I was early enough.
Yeah.
Like why not? It doesn't make any sense to be going through these freaking machines. It's nuts.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you so much for like coming on this podcast and sharing your story with me, and like just seeing another human that's like truly living your purpose. And it was like exactly what I needed to hear, because like I've been having all those fear thoughts coming up for me, where it's like, okay, I'll just go back to work just for a little bit to give me some money to like do the things I want to do. But it's like, I think I'm shutting myself out to like the abundance that's out there. And I've been having a lot of like limiting, like self-doubting like beliefs. And so I think I need to do some more homework and think about that for sure. So thank you for like opening that up. That's awesome.
No, thank you for hosting me and having faith in me and believing that I have a strong message to share with the whole world.
For sure. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
So Instagram, Architect Goddess.
I like it.
And you can go to my website. It's www.sunlightnutrition.com. You can send me an email through there. sunlightnutrition.com or awesome. Architect Goddess. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to My Backstory. Stay motivated and stay connected off the show. Follow at my_backstory_ to be a part of the journey to recovery and to see where your story goes. Or visit us online at hereismybackstory.com.